we have Captain Adams on with us, and Captain Adams was Jones and I's PL back when he was Lieutenant Adams back in the day. And sir, I just want to say, first of all, congratulations on your engagement.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, dude, that's exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm actually in her apartment right now, but I'll tell her y'all say congrats. No, we're excited. Should be getting married next May, so looking forward to it.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's coming up quick.
Yeah, and not a captain anymore. Seems like a lifetime ago, but slowly adjusting to civilian life. Got out in 2020.
Did you get out as a captain?
I did. I finished my team leader time, and I was avoiding staff work for as long as possible. Y'all know me. That wasn't my desired path, and so once my time on the ground was over, it was time for me to go.
Okay, so you were saying you went the Special Forces route. When did you head over and start doing that?
Yeah, I did. So I was with the All in Creek Company. We got back from Afghanistan in 2014, and
Yep.
I don't know if y'all remember RXO and that company had been selected for Special Forces before the deployment. So he went, as soon as we got home, like right after post-deployment leave, he headed straight to Fort Bragg for the Q course. And I moved into the XO slot. And I was XO of Creek then for about a year and went to selection and left. So I guess I went to the Q course in 2015, graduated in 2017, ended up in group from 2017, just under 3 years. I left right at the 3-year mark. Got out in 2020, so I got about a little over 2 years of team leader time, which was a great experience.
Just curious, what language did you pick?
Russian.
Oh, I did not expect that.
Yeah, neither did I. It was tough, I've never been good at foreign languages. Like growing up in school, like it was never my strong suit. I grew up in Houston. We had to take Spanish, and like I can't speak 5 words of Spanish, and I took it my whole life. And that was the part of the course I was really nervous about.
Dude, why did you pick Russian? Almost everybody I know picks Spanish, or I even know 1 or 2 that picked like Mandarin. You're the first person I've talked to that picked Russian.
Yeah, it was my first choice. I wanted to go to Colorado. I mean, Gilm's a Colorado guy. He knows, like, that's what the group there is aligned with, and I was going to do what it took to get to Colorado. And, all the groups are awesome, and I would have been overwhelmingly happy at any of them, but I was excited to get my choice and end up there.
Is that where you ended up? Was it in Colorado?
I did, yeah. It was in Colorado Springs.
Dude, nice.
Sir, I moved away from Colorado.
When? Where are you now?
I'm in Idaho.
That's awesome. Another cool state. Coeur
d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay.
Right in the north. It's right near Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool spot.
I'm going to be in Washington State in Yakima like 2 weeks from now for work. I love it up there. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh
my
goodness.
What are you doing now?
So I recently, about 5 months ago, started a new job as a solar energy developer. So I work in utility scale solar development. So pretty much thousands of acres, ranchers lease us their land, and we're building renewable energy farms. And our main clients that we sell the energy to are all, the big tech companies for their data centers, stuff like that. And so my path after the Army is, I'm a big proponent of, use all the benefits. Like took my GI Bill, went to grad school, was like, my nightmare scenario was getting out of the Army on a Friday and like sit in a cubicle on a Monday. That just sounded horrible to me. I needed a transition. I left for West Point right after high school and had been in uniform or been in the Army then. I was 31, 32 when I got out. So I was like, I need kind of a 2-year primer on how the civilian world works, because I really haven't been a part of it. Been in Army towns this whole time. And so went to business school, took my GI Bill, got it paid for, went and did a year on Wall Street in investment banking. Realized pretty quickly it wasn't for me, but learned as much as I could, made great connections, and then made the move to energy development.
It sounds like a good move. I mean, everybody's going to need energy one way.
Yeah, I like it. And, I deal with like real people every day. I talk to, people in Washington and Oregon and Texas and deal with landowners and ranchers and end up meeting a lot of vets out there. And there's a lot of vets in this industry because it's project management. Like if you're, we're team leader, squad leader, platoon leader, like how to manage a team of subject matter experts, of medics and riflemen and commo guys and whatnot. And a lot of my job is managing, the consultants and the geologists and the, engineers and stuff like that. And, we talked about in the Army, the common operating picture, the desired end state. Like my job's to drive it to get there. So there's a lot of crossover and I've really liked it.
Hey,
Dude,
sir. So
go ahead. My bad.
Oh, I was just going to say, sir, you talk a little bit about this transition. What was it like more in depth? Was it hard? What was some of the struggles you dealt with when you transitioned out of the Army?
Yeah, for sure. I think there were a couple different factors. There were struggles, and business school definitely helped with this and gave me some community. So there was the professional side and the personal side. So on the personal side, I don't know if y'all noticed, but like when we were at Fort Polk together, we were kind of the only game in town. Like that was it. And there's the Army makes it where you can't really hang out with anyone outside of your rank. So we called it, in the officer side, you call it like your built-in friends. Like you show up at your new unit, like here's your 7 best friends now, because those are the only guys you're allowed to hang out with. So I hope you like them. And luckily at Polk, we had a good crew because that's like all we could hang out with. And so I got out of the Army and I was used to being around a bunch of like cool, like-minded guys who were into the same things I was and like the outdoors and like going out on the weekends and working out, and like everyone was a good dude with like a good moral compass and like, had been through a vetting process and was there for a reason. And when I got out, it took me a while to realize that that wasn't always necessarily the case on the outside, and you couldn't just assume everyone, because not everyone went through the same training gates and everything. And, this is an extreme example, but I remember the first class we had to take in business school, the first few weeks, was a leadership class. And I'm in New York City, and I imposter syndrome to the max. Like I'm in there just like, what, like all these people have come from these great jobs. I'm just like this. I was a soldier a month ago. Like I was still on leave. Like, and I'm just like, I don't know what a balance sheet is. I don't know like any of the business math. Like I have no idea about any of this. But then we got to the leadership class and I found the other vets. They were really good about finding, like, there was a big pack of NCOs and officers from all across the military in our business school class. And we all found each other and like we all figured out pretty quick that we were all going through the same thing. And we would joke about it because there was a SEAL in my class and we'd joke, and we were in leadership class and somebody would be like, what would you do in this situation? And somebody would raise their hand, which is some wazoo idea. And we were looking at each other like, how did you not learn that in like the infantry school? Like that's like day 1 Ranger school stuff. Like how does he not know that? And then we'd be like, oh, like not everybody went through that. But then on the flip side, when it got to, accounting class, we have no idea what's going on and we have to go to them and learn from them. So it was a good like outreach of, finding common ground. We were able to share some of our leadership and team leading experience, and they were able to share, the finance and technical and business aspect. And I made some great friends that way. But it did take me finding that network of friends in the city. And it took a while in New York, but the basis of my friend group is still veterans because, we all kind of come from the same place and we all went through the same transition, and we've all been extremely helpful to each other. And sometimes it's cool just to have a guy to like drink a beer with and be like, hey, remember this, or like, it's been a rough day or it's a rough anniversary or something like that. To, the extreme example of on the professional side, and I'll talk about that, like the vet network and recruiting was insane. And I see it now that I'm on the other side of grad school. Like if you get an email from a veteran and in New York, it's a big circle, but it's a small community. Like you reply to that email, and pretty much every job interview, everything I got coming out of business school, and then when I made the transition 5 months ago to my new job, was through a veteran, and that network has been invaluable. And then on the professional side, completely different because, and I'd say that's where the military kind of worked against me, where, there's a structure and a progression in the military. You get out of basic training. If you're on the enlisted side, you get out of basic training. You're a rifleman for a while. Then you get promoted to team leader. Then you're squad leader, platoon. You work your way up. And it's just like, you know what's coming. You know what's next in the pipeline. On the officer side, you're a PL, you're an XO, then you're going to be a company commander, then you have staff, and then you go on. And you just kind of follow the herd because you know what's coming next. There might be some cool jobs you can do left or right, but there's like not too much variation. And so when I got to business school, all vets either go banking or consulting. Like that's it, historically. And so I just like, those are my two choices. I'm following the herd. And it's kind of like, am I staying infantry or going SF? Like those are the paths. And so I did what I was supposed to do. You know, I went to investment banking. And while I'm glad that I did it and it's valuable, like I hated it. I was working 100 hours a week. I never had a day off on the weekends. It just wasn't for me. And I felt like I was deployed to New York City. Like I could have been in any city on earth. It didn't matter. I didn't get to go out and do anything. And while it was a valuable work experience, I think the biggest wake up call for me was it was a older West Pointer who works in recruiting gave me kind of a come to Jesus talk. And he was a family friend. And I got set up on a call with him. And I'm like, hey, dude, I'm in a bad spot. Like, I'm not happy. You know, I've lost a lot of weight. I'm mentally and physically not where I want to be right now. And he was like, you need to get out of that job. Why did you go do that? And he had been to business school. He went to Harvard. So he was like, I've seen this. I've seen why I know why you did it, but I want to hear you say it. And I was like, oh, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And, you know, I wanted to go make money and stuff. And he was like, hey, man, come up. I'm like, what about this industry? What about this industry? He's like, forget about that for a minute. Come up with a list of like, what are you looking for in a role? And I was like, I want to lead a team. I want to own a project. I don't want it to be transactional. I want to have a stake in the game, stuff like that. And I want to work with like real Americans out there. And he was like, cool. Like, then you take that and then you go find the job that's tailored to that. And that was kind of a wake up call to me. And the veteran network really helped me there because I made a mistake in my job selection coming out and I needed that azimuth check.
Yeah, man. And I really wish I would have heard that too, how you said, you know, if you're a platoon leader, a team leader, squad leader, that management is kind of where you want to be or supervisory. Because I did the same thing when I got out. I went straight to college. I had no clue what to do, but all my buddies back home did engineering. So I was like, I guess I'll do that. I started drafting, then designing, then engineering, and was miserable. I didn't like sitting in a cubicle. I didn't like not talking to people, not leading a team. And I just thought it's what people were supposed to do. Just make the money and do your 9 to 5. But COVID actually saved me because COVID happened and I got furloughed and started looking around at jobs and saw production supervisor and started reading it. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what I want to do and what I have experience doing, leading a team, checking their equipment, being on the floor, walking around, being responsible for people and their timelines and dude, it changed my life. I love it. Love being in management, love being in that environment.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. And, you know, those are lucky guys to have you because I've seen you at work leading soldiers. So I know how good you are at that. Yeah. And you and I, one of my fondest memories of Afghanistan was we were waiting for an aerial resupply and it was late. And I remember you and I were sitting next to each other, just like huddled up for like hours in the middle of the night, right outside the gate. And I really got to hear about your career and your time coming through the airborne and how you ended up at 10th Mountain. And I learned a lot from y'all about, you know, what it means to take care of soldiers and lead soldiers. So I know how good you are at that. So I'm glad you found it. They're lucky to have you.
No, I appreciate that, sir. And it's something that I really, really enjoy. And I want to keep climbing the ladder. And
yeah,
like you said, it's not the thing that I had to get over too was it's not like the military. You don't have to go from team leader to squad leader. If you have that oomph, you can go straight from supervisor into any management role you want. All you got to do is prove that you can do it.
Absolutely. And another difference that I've learned is if you don't want to pursue that route, like if you find a job you like and you're happy with your work-life balance and you enjoy it, you can stay there. It's not up or out like in the military.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of feel somewhat the similar thing. Like I struggled a little bit when I got out. Like I didn't know. I just knew I had free college, right? I got to go to college.
Yeah.
So I went to college and I started talking to my counselor what I wanted to do, and she's like, "Well, long story short, I was like, I want to do sports radio." So it was awesome, right? And then I started working for a radio station in college, and I started working at tons of sporting events, CSU games, and I had a really fun time. And I think COVID saved me because also reality hit me. To work in sports radio or something like that is super competitive, and you're competing
Yeah.
with former professional football players. There's no way I can compete with those. So I kind of shifted more on the production side,
Yeah.
and I really worked really hard learning all the production side, like replay, all that production stuff that goes in games. I kind of learned how to do that. And I was having a lot of fun, and I was doing an internship with the Eagles, which is the Avalanche's minor league team. And then COVID happened, and I ended up moving to Idaho. And now I'm in a completely different field, but all of that gave me a lot of great tools. And then because I was a veteran, I was able to get a job, and I now work for a local county government, and I do what's essentially a public information officer role is what it
Oh,
is
that's
right
cool.
now. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool because that's where I'm in a really good job now, I think, and it's government benefits, and I'm really thankful, and I wouldn't have got it if I wasn't a veteran or the awesome education I got.
Yeah, 100%. And you get to produce your own podcast on the weekends. So, best of both worlds.
which is
Yeah,
a
so
blast.
yeah, it gave me a lot of good experience because I'm kind of a one stop shop with like media production. I can create videos and video edit, and I even actually helped my local county government out, and I helped make them recruiting videos for the sheriff's office, and I did it all, and they were like, "This is really good," and I was like, "Thanks." It was kind of cool, but yeah, this is something that it was just Jones and I just started talking, and then I think we have all these resources, but if we can get it all in one spot and help other veterans out, especially the ones that are transitioning out, especially hearing your story, like that's incredible. Um, how you kind of chose to go to the job that you have right now. Do you think you have it narrowed down to like a formula now? Because you were talking about you had to like narrow down in your head and categorize how you wanted to choose a career.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a formula. It took some humility to like go to guys that had gone before me. And just like we did in the military, find somebody you respect and like and be like, hey man, like, what am I doing wrong? How do I get to where you are? Because one of the reasons I left the military is because I didn't want to deploy all the time anymore. I wanted to, I'm getting older. We're all in our mid 30s. I want to, get married, start a family, I want my kids to know who I am. And in the finance world I initially went into, you're working so much that I really I had what I was looking for professionally, but I didn't have that work life balance where my personal hobbies and passions were gonna have and goals were gonna have to take a back seat. And so that was important to me to lay out what I actually want. And it was a big step. A lot of people were like, especially business school classmates, are like, "What are you doing?" Like, and I was like, "No, this is great for me," and I couldn't be happier. No, I want to hear more about this city government role though, because it sounds
Oh,
awesome. And yeah, it sounds like a great spot you're in to help vets coming back because like there's kind of a natural transition into local government work.
well, one I want to say too. I work in one of the departments underneath my bosses is a veteran service office, and
Oh,
nearly
awesome.
every county has them. He's been really busy because he's also we have one of the highest veterans per capita for a county in the region, so they're very
Really?
busy. They're
Yeah.
very busy. Yeah, Kootenai County, Idaho has a very large veteran population, so I want to get him on because a veteran service office helps veterans with their benefits. And I want to definitely pick his brain because I'm sure he has got a wealth of knowledge. So that's really exciting. My role, though, is essentially every government entity has what's called they'll have either a communications manager, a public information officer, And that's essentially what I do. But I also have, because it's a smaller government, I have a lot of hats. They give me a lot of different duties within that role too. So essentially, I do a lot of media relations. I do public outreach. I do a whole lot of different things that kind of help get information out to the public and also manage a lot of records. That's the boring part of my job. I do a lot of records. We have to provide records by law. That's kind of the
Yeah,
boring part of my job.
it's
But
government work. Hey, all those property layouts set you up for that.
oh yeah, all those layouts. Yeah. Thank you, sir. If it wasn't for
Hey,
that,
that wasn't my call. I was
See,
kidding.
see, I wanted to hear more about this Q course.
yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to know? Went to
Is,
selection, and selection's 3 weeks, and then came back to Polk and out processed. And so, you know, the enlisted side, there's the 18 X-ray program, or you can apply from while you're, in a different MOS in the Army. On the officer side, you can't go to the Q course until you a O2 promotable to O3. So I went to selection like I think at the 3 year mark, like after we got home from Afghanistan, middle of my XO
Mhm.
time, I went, and then, or I guess at the end of my XO time, and then went to Bragg, and the course was about 2.5 years. It's anywhere from 2 to 3.5, depending on what your job's going to be on the team, and
And did you
it was
stay
incredible.
infantry for that?
Uh, no, so once you go, you're reclassed into SF. So I went from being an 11 Alpha, which is, infantry officer, to 18
Mhm.
Alpha, which is SF officer. So all the 18 series is all SF.
Okay, so what MOS would that be? You would just automatically be a platoon leader or a team leader for a special forces group?
Yeah, so it's an ODA. So remember, we were attached to the ODA in Afghanistan. So there's the
Hmm.
one captain. It's a 12-man team. I guess now since I've left, it's now men and women on the team. And the 18 Alpha is the team leader. And there's kind of the leadership triangle. You have an E8, who's your 18 Zulu, who is your team sergeant. And then you have a 180 Alpha, which is the warrant officer. So those are the three leadership. Then you have an 18 Fox, who's your intelligence sergeant, and he's kind of like the number 2 NCO. He's next in the pipeline to the team sergeant. And then you have 2 of each of the MOSs. So you have 2 18 Bravos, which are the weapon sergeants, 2 18 Charlies, which are the engineers, 2 18 Deltas, which are the medics, and then 2 18 Echoes, which are communications.
Did you get to deploy with these guys, or were you just at the unit?
We deployed twice. Because Russian language and everything. I was in Ukraine for 2 6-month deployments. So we went on FID mission, which is Foreign Internal Defense, in 2018 and 2019. We were training and advising the Ukrainian Special Forces.
Dude, that sounds crazy.
It was awesome. I loved
Yeah, I
Ukraine.
mean,
My heart goes out to those people, and they truly are warriors. Like
oh, for
these
sure.
guys that we trained are out there getting after it, and couldn't be happier or prouder of them. And super proud of the NCOs that were on our ODA that I was lucky enough to get to work with and be on a team with, because these guys were just studs who did a great job setting the Ukrainians up.
Sir, do you think like our deployment was that like when you knew for sure you were like, I definitely am going special forces after getting to work with them?
I mean, I wasn't like I'm definitely going special forces, because it's a lot of luck and right timing and everything. I knew I wanted to go special forces, uh, but it was a long process to get there, and a lot of luck and a lot of prep. But yeah, so I actually, my window, every officer in my year group gets an email like, hey, your window's open this year. Like, if you want to apply, send in your packet, everything, and then they'll decide who's coming to selection. And my window opened up. I don't know if y'all remember, I came out and joined y'all's platoon 3 months into the deployment. And because I had already been a PL beforehand in Blackhawk Company, and then was in my staff time, and then, got fortunate enough to get to be part of y'all's platoon too, or our platoon. And in that 3 month staff, I was on staff at like one of the big FOBs of brigade. So I remember so I had internet and everything, and got to talk to the recruiters. And I had dropped my packet right before I came out to join Creek Company. But yeah, being out there, that solidified. I was like, because I had no real, like I had mentorship, but we were detached from the company. And so we were out there with the ODA, and the team leader, the captain on the team we were attached to, did a great job of like taking me under his wing, especially when I told him I'd put a packet in. He's like, shadow me. He did not have to go out of the way. He took me to key leader engagements in town. He took me to meet with the local leaders, and kind of afterwards would take the time to explain what was going on and like, what he was doing and how it played into the larger mission. And he was great about that. And I definitely, I left and came home like, that's what I want to do.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit more of the Q course process. Like once you got into it, tell us, how challenging was it? Did it kick your butt, or did you kick its butt?
Oh no, it kicked my butt. Yeah. So selection is 3 weeks. It's physical. It's, I didn't see a single cadre yell once. It's super professional, and they're just like, and there's tons of documentaries and you can read up all about it, but it's pretty much like, here's your task for the day, and they just step back and watch. And then that's all physical. It's ruck based and land nav based, and you spend 3 weeks with a ruck on your back pretty much. And then once you get to the Q course, it's a good mix of like academic and learning and physical. And they've since changed up the structure. I'm not sure like how the phase order goes now, but there's general training. You have people coming from all over the Army. You have everything from 15-year seasoned Ranger Reg NCOs infantry to like, we had like a vet tech who had like worked in the vet clinic. Like, and so you need to get everybody, and they're all these great guys bringing all these different diverse skills and knowledge bases and points of view to the table. But you have to go through small unit tactics, which is like a mini ranger school, because they just want everybody on the same page. Like, here's Battle Drill 1 Alpha. Here's how you clear a room. Here's how you do an op order. Here's how you do a con op, all that stuff. So it kind of starts with getting everybody on the same page, and then you go later in the course into more MOS specific training. And for the officers, that's really the make or break part, where the MOS training is 4 months of like intense mission planning where you're constantly being evaluated. And then you end with Robin Sage, and then 6 months of language. And I think the order's different now, but that's how it was for us.
And the language was the toughest part, right?
Academically, yes. But lifestyle-wise, it was great. Like, we had a quiz every week. You just have to pass like the test at the end. It was like 9 to 4 every day. I think we had 8:30 formation. You're in a classroom at Bragg from 9 to 4. And then, went to Raleigh a lot, worked out a lot, had a good time.
Go to the beach.
I never went to the beach in North Carolina. I went to Asheville
Really?
to the mountains a lot, but I never made it to the beach. I went to the lake, never to the beach.
See, my brother, that's all he did was stay at the beach. He's Special Forces as well. But I know when he was at Bragg, that's all he talked about was every day he'd go to the beach or whatever.
What group is he in?
I honestly couldn't tell you anymore. I think he's third group.
At Bragg? Cool.
Yeah, that's where he was. Nowadays,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I know he goes to Africa, and I know Spanish is the language he chose, but that's about all I know.
Yeah. If he likes the beach, he's in a good spot then.
Sir, did you get to see any other branches of the military at the Special Forces training? Was there like Marines or Navy that tried it?
We had a good chunk of former Marines in my class. For some reason, we had like this like little crew of former recon Marines in our class, and they were awesome. Because SF has a National Guard component. There's a 19th and 20th group, the two National Guard groups, and we had a couple guys that I can think of right now who were Marines, wanted to stay in the military. And I don't know on the Marine side, like I have no clue like what those options are to go like reserves or guard equivalent or whatever. But they moved over. They were all in like school or med school or grad school, and they were, joining the guard in whatever state they were going to school in so they could, stay active. But they still had to take that sabbatical and do, the 2-year course. And then they were going to go back, finish school, and I guess be on their teams on the weekends. But yeah, we would always joke like SF National Guard sounds like the best job in the military because like you get to go work a regular job, go to school, have your life, but then like you're still on a team and still get that camaraderie and get to like keep a foot in the door. And those guys seem very happy.
Now, did you ever consider switching to the National Guard?
I did not, just because I knew I was coming to New York City, and I'm here in Manhattan right now, and there's no SF Guard in New York, and I would have to load up in a car, rent a car on the weekends. I don't even have a car now, and like head up to some state in New England, whichever state I joined up, or fly somewhere. And I don't know, it sounded like a lot, and I was pretty ready to get out when I left. I was pretty burned out, so I was ready to go.
It took you a longer time than me, 6 years, and I was pretty over it.
Yeah, I get it. And once and I talked to my team sergeant about this at length. He's getting ready to retire too. Once I mentally was like, I don't know if this is for me anymore. I'm getting burned out. Like I was like, I need to get out immediately because it's not fair to the organization. It's not fair to the dudes. Like to have someone who's like thinking about getting out. So it was time to go.
No, I can agree with that. I kind of felt bad too there towards the end with my guys. I was always teaching them, but it got to the point where I just didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah. And like you said, it was unfair to them because I was over it. I was ready to get out, be a civilian.
Get some young guy in there who's, pumped up and knees don't hurt.
Somebody's gung-ho for it.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned knees.
So while you were in Ukraine, I was going to ask about the Middle East because I didn't know you went to Europe. But did you get to all the cool guy weapons like the Carl Gustav and all the cool guns and air support and everything while you're in Ukraine?
Yeah, we can't, obviously get too much into that, but we were not handing the Ukrainians our M4s.
No, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, no, like when we were taking them out to train, and teaching them like battle drills or like going through TTPs and stuff, like we needed to have a familiarity with their weapons, and that's the 18 Bravo's job. And so, yeah, we were exposed to all their weapon systems because we had to have a familiarity of like, it doesn't do them a lot of good if we teach them how to do tactics that only really work for American weapons and American capabilities. Like we need to teach them to use what they have. So we were exposed to all that.
Which is cool. So when I was stationed in Italy, there's a program where you can go link up with the German army for like 4 months. Mm-hmm. And they train you on all their weapon systems and you do joint exercises with them. But they're so select with it that they always pick the guys who have been in 5 to 10 years already. Yeah. And they get to have their turn to it. So I never got to go do it, but you get a real cool guy ribbon and badge and even a rope for getting to go through this training with the German army.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, dude, I bet it was a blast.
Yeah, and those guys are studs too, so that would have been a good time. Hey, it's not too late. Get back in and go.
Sir, I had a question for you. I've always wanted to know over the years. So, wait, is the Charlie or the Echo the communications one?
Echo.
Okay, so if a SF team has two Echoes, why did we have a JTAC with this too, the Air Force JTAC?
SF also has JTACs.
Okay.
That separate from the Echo. The Echo can be a JTAC, but somebody on the team has gone to the JTAC course. And that's just a capability that every line unit in the military has to have. I actually ran into our JTAC at
no way.
Our CCT, yeah. I don't know if you remember him, and I won't say his name, but he had the beard down to here. And I was at some training after the Q course, and I was walking through a room, and he was just like, Adams. And I was just like looking at him, and I didn't recognize him. He was like, it's me. And because he was clean shaven and had like neat haircut. And I couldn't believe it. It was great to see him. And he remembered all you guys. And he actually talked. He's like, y'all are, how great, our guys were down to, the private level and how much he enjoyed working with the platoon. So it was cool to see him. It was like, almost 5 years later, I guess, at that point.
I don't even know if I'd recognize him anymore. I remember the beard. That's about all I remember.
I didn't recognize him, but until he started talking to me.
I just my couple really good memories of that team and that JTAC. Well, one, not the JTAC, but I remember we had just got to to the cop that we were at, and this guy comes up on one of those motorbikes, right? And I didn't realize he was an American. And all of a sudden, he takes off his robe, and I'm like, oh, that's a Special Forces guy. And he was just completely shredded, just a short guy. And I was like, okay, this is a Special Forces team. Okay, like I didn't even know this guy was that. And then I met the JTech, I think, right after that, because he came up too, and he was also in his robes. And then, they all had those awesome beards, and they all could just blend in. It was really crazy.
Speaking of shredded, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, sir.
I've listened to all your episodes. I listened to the one with Sobers, and that I forgot until y'all started talking about it. The whole platoon, all we did was lift. Like, that was such a meathead platoon, and I loved it. Like, our platoon sergeant, I remember, got that Bobcat and flattened that one piece of ground until it was perfect. Like,
the dude was obsessed with that Bobcat.
Yeah, like we were like, I think it's ready to build the gym, and he's like, no, like it needs to. It was like a skating rink, and it was weeks that he just like went back and forth, and then we used the Air Force pallets from the resupply, made squat racks. We went and raided that fob. That American fob was closing. We pulled up with an empty like flatbed, got all their gym equipment. Like, all we did was lift and go on missions.
I remember waking up at like 2 a.m. and seeing him out there on the Bobcat riding around. I was like, dude,
my cot was right next to his, and he was just like, I gotta go work on the gym. And I'm like, okay, like it's 10 degrees outside, but all right.
So he always liked to use all those the Bobcats and the 10K loader. And then that one time he got sick, he got a cold, and they took volunteers. And I knew it was my one lucky day, and I got to use the 10K loader for a helicopter landing. And I started, our squad leader, right? He supervised me, but I got to operate the 10K loader, and I knew he must have been very sick for me to get a chance to be able to operate this 10K. And when I think he went to the Pentagon after he left our unit, we gave him a goodbye gift. We gave him a little Bobcat, little toy Bobcat.
Oh my gosh.
That was our goodbye gift.
While you were driving it, I bet he was probably watching through the window. Making
He's
sure
doing
you
it
didn't
wrong.
hit anything.
So I'm going to see him in a few weeks. I saw him last year. He was in New York for some military stuff, doing some ceremonial stuff because he's been down in DC. But I'm going to his retirement ceremony. He's finally retiring next month. And,
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, they're asking for memories, and I'm going to bring up the Bobcat. He loved that thing.
I mean, the dude's a savage. I remember he took us on what was it? It had to have been a 10 to 12 mile ruck. And somebody was complaining and whining, one of the privates, and he heard him and was like, that's it. Every 4 miles, we're going to stop and we're going to roll. All of you are going to do combatives. So we had to not only do a 10 to 12 mile ruck, but every 2 miles stop and do combatives for 10 to 15 minutes.
And the thing was, he was a legend. Like, we all respected him because, so I came out and I'd been in Black Hawk Company and I'd met him in passing because, my roommate at the time was one of the PLs in Creek Company in our sister platoon. And I get the word that I'm going out to that platoon. It's like, oh, I got to bring my A game because he was a god in our unit, and because of heroics on and he got Valor Award on previous deployment. Everybody knew who he was. I was really fortunate to be paired with him to lead the platoon together. But he, I came out and got to know him, and he's still one of my closest friends. And I was like, man,
that's awesome.
He had his quirks, but he's awesome.
That's awesome because he's a savage, and I would love to reach out to guys like that, but it's so hard when you're in the military, and like you said, when they're not just your boss, but they're such a different level that you're never around each other like that. It's hard to reach out and be like, "Oh, how you doing?" And go visit. I don't know. I might have to come visit you though, because you're right there. I'm in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, come on.
That's what I've been talking about. We need a reunion. I've already got it all planned out. We should all go on a cruise. We'll get T-shirts, matching T-shirts so we don't get lost, and we'll go around the Caribbean.
I don't think we're going to need T-shirts for everyone to identify who's with our group because it's going to be absolutely
I
Mad
say
Men and wild, but I'm down. Get me a
I
neon
say we make the
t-shirt, give me
shirts
a fanny
very
pack.
feminine and see if Bontrager
Yeah.
will wear it.
Oh, yeah. That'd be hilarious.
The
I'll
t-shirts are
start
more for me, so I don't lose anybody.
I'll start socializing it with his, he's got a wife and he's got, kids in high school, so I'll start making sure he can take spring break.
Oh man,
But
his kids are in high school now, aren't they?
yeah, they were like little kids. Like I used to go over for dinner at their house and I'm like, these are real people now, they're adults. But
I've never I've never
yeah.
seen someone as patient as his wife before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because I remember I showed up and they're like, he's like, "Oh, like, are you married?" Is because like you're as the officer, your wife is supposed to run the FRG, the Family Readiness Group. And I ran into the same thing in SF where they're like, "Oh, my wife's like ready to hand it over because we have an officer now." And I'm like, "Nope, like just me." She was very patient with me too. She was taking care of both of us.
who was it when we had that night of drinking beer that Bontrager started choking out? One of the privates.
I wasn't there for that.
We had a get together and Bontrager ended up getting drunk and wanted to do combatives. And nobody would do it with him. And I think it was Hunges walked by at the wrong time and he snagged him up and was like choking the life out of him.
Oh my god.
It took, I think, me, Marshall, and two other people were like trying to pry him off of poor little Joey.
Hunches still have been standing there. Speaking of, has anyone heard from Hunches? Like, where is he?
I talk to him. I text him regularly.
Okay.
He's got a lot of personality
Issues?
still.
Oh yeah, he was hilarious. Is he still wearing his marshmallow suit everywhere? Like, it didn't matter if it was middle of summer or middle of the winter. He was wearing that puffy silver marshmallow suit.
He was always cold, and
Yeah.
he had the frail skin, so he had to wear sunscreen constantly,
Yeah.
and he'd always have like a little glob of sunscreen right here,
Yeah.
and
To
the
this
puffer
day,
jacket.
I've met some great smack talkers in my life. He's still like top 3, if not number 1. Like, it was that dude can lay it on thick.
Let's transition. I want to know a couple things, if I can pick your brain, sir.
Okay.
What made you go the officer route? Like, when did you know, and what made you choose going to West Point?
It's a good question. Don't have a perfect answer for it, but I was a 6th, 7th grader on 9/11 and kind of knew like I want to go into the military. And I actually remember being pretty pissed off, and I still am about it. But I remember thinking like, man, like I'm in middle school. I'm not old enough to enlist. Like this is going to be way over by the time I'm old enough to go. And then like I guess 12 years later, we were all hiking up the snow backside cliff in Afghanistan, and I thought about that, and I was laughing under my breath. I'm like cursing under my breath, and I'm like, "Good one, God! Like you got me there." Like,
and then 12 years after that, we'll probably still have
on.
dudes.
Yeah, but it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to go into the military. At my high school, they pretty consistently sent one student every year to a service academy, and it kind of went in waves. When I was, younger, I would see the older guys, and one guy went to the Air Force Academy to play football. So like a few years, everybody was following him to the Air Force Academy. Then it was Navy for a few years, and then a couple years ahead of me, one guy went to West Point, and then a year ahead of me, 2 of my brother's friends went to West Point because my brother was a year ahead of me, and 2 of his close buddies that I'd grown up looking up to these guys, being the little brother. They went, and I started looking into it more. My parents' next door neighbor, like the dad next door, I was friends with his son. He was early 80s West Point grad. And on our block, we had like 10 boys that were all very close, and we're still all friends. And we were all, within like a 4-year window. And we were all playing football in the street and hockey and like hanging out all the time. And everyone on the street had gotten the pitch from him and like not gone. And I was the last one, and I was already kind of thinking about it. And he gave me the pitch, and it kind of resonated with me. And then a guy my dad worked with was a West Pointer, and he was like, "Hey man, like I heard you're thinking about the military. If you want to do this, here are the benefits, that it brought to me. And so I'm from Texas. I looked at University of Texas, where most people in my family went. I had some family that did the Corps Cadets at Texas A&M, and I did my visit there. And I was just knowing my personality, like I knew I needed to be all in. Like I can't do ROTC or something where I'm, at a party Wednesday. I'm like, hey guys, I got to go home because I got PT in the morning. Like that wouldn't have gone well for me. And so I wanted to be surrounded by other people where the whole school was doing the same thing. So I went and visited West Point and had been accepted. And, I really enjoyed it. I showed up and met some cadets and was like, these are kind of my people. Like we're all kind of the weirdos in high school and like the nerds, and we found each other. And to this day, my best friends in the world are the guys that I went to West Point with, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. We've all been out of the military for years. We still talk every day. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that experience. And it didn't hurt that it was free college, and didn't take my GI Bill. So I was actually able to go in afterwards into the military, and then my first 5 years were paying back West Point. And then after that, coming out of West Point, your GI Bill clock doesn't start till after that 5 years. So by the time, because I picked up an ADSO in SF, I did like 9.5 years. And so I had picked up 100% of the GI Bill and was able to use that for my master's degree. So it turned out great.
That's awesome.
Definitely days and nights there that I was like, what am I doing? Facebook was pretty new when I was 18 and at West Point, and it was the worst thing on earth because I could like see all on Friday night, like I'm hiding from the upperclassmen in the barracks. I'm like seeing all my friends at like frat parties at Texas. Like, what am I doing? And but I'm glad I did it.
Did you still have a MySpace then too?
I never had a MySpace, and I will go to the grave claiming that.
I wish I had that claim. I wish I did.
Oh,
what about?
I hope your MySpace is Arcade somewhere. Just like I'm imagining.
Oh,
just
mine's
like,
somewhere.
I'm imagining it's you and like some big sunglasses in the mirror, like with techno playing in the background.
So I can remember mine is out in an aluminum boat holding a big bass.
Yeah, that tracks too. That's very.
I thought I was the coolest ever. Just pictures of deer and squirrel and rabbit I had killed.
Hey, you were the coolest ever. You still are.
It was all about that top friends, though. You'd put your top friends up, who you like the most.
Oh yeah,
it ended
and
friendships.
That drama. Somebody gets bumped,
I know. Sir, what about the West Point life? You talked a little bit about. Did you guys get to have any fun, or is it just all like you're just in your books doing military stuff 24/7?
No, it's definitely not 24/7. I mean, you're on a military installation, you live in the barracks, but it's kind of dorms, but it's barracks. It's an hour, 10 minutes from where I am right now. So the closest city is New York City. So I graduated in 2011. So much probably has and could have changed since then, but I'll preface it by saying that we had class Monday to Friday, like normal college kids, except we had breakfast formation, lunch formation. Underclassmen, I think, or plebes had mandatory dinner a couple nights a week. Upperclassmen did not. If you were either on a sports team, there were 3 levels. You had to be a part of athletics. You were either what's called a core squatter, which means you're on the course team. You're on an NCAA team, like football, hockey, basketball, whatever. If you were not on that, then the next level was club squad, which is intercollegiate competition, but not NCAA. So that's like cruise, sailing, orienteering, stuff that's not NCAA, but you're competing against other schools. And then I was not on either of those. I mean, y'all have seen my athletic prowess. That's not shocking. I was a company athlete, which means intramurals. And so on Monday through Thursday, you usually had your athletics from like 4 to 6 or 4 to 5 or whatever, 2 of those days. And then the other 2, you had parade practice usually because, you have to put on your full dress uniform and parade and practice because on Saturdays for football games, like a certain number of cadets are going to be out there. They divided up to do like the parade for before the football game, or there were parades for speakers or events or reunions or various events. And then on the weekends, usually it depended. They would announce like they could put out a schedule, like there was A weekends, B weekends, C weekends, and I forget what they all meant, but it was, I think we had like 2 military training weekends, like Saturdays a semester. And then if you had a football game, you had to go to all the home games. And then other than that, you couldn't really think. I think we got plebe year, so freshman year, you got to leave on pass once a semester. And sophomores twice, juniors 3 times, and seniors every weekend. And senior year, we got a car. So like senior year, we were in New York City at the bars like every weekend. But plebe year,
nice.
You asked if we had fun. Like we did, but we always joke like your definition of fun changed quickly. Like fun was ordering a pizza from in town. Somebody went and grabbed it, and like we had Netflix disc coming in the mail, and we weren't allowed. We weren't allowed to watch. Our upperclassmen were pretty like they turned the other way. But like we, in my company, my plebe year, we were not allowed to watch videos or have external monitors. I think our first semester. So we would all like hide. I remember I had the corner room by the broom closet. So like everybody would come hide in our room and we'd watch like Superbad or Wedding Crashers, on DVD and eat pizza. So that was, crazy Friday night in college. I'm sure it was the same for you. And, when you went to school after the Army.
Yeah, it was a lot of good beer. But sir,
Yeah.
one more question. Did you get to pick to be infantry like in the military academy? You got to choose that, or did they choose that for you?
So good question, because they've changed it since. They did an OML, Order of Merit list, and your GPA was mostly academic, but then there were also physical and military grade components, because in your military component came from your summer details and summer military training, but it also came from like, if you're a sophomore, you're a team leader. You're one plebe that's your private, you're in charge of. And then juniors were squad leaders, seniors were platoon leaders, and like you got graded on, your leadership abilities. And then those 3 things come up with your cumulative GPA, and they made a Order of Merit list. And we went into a portal, and you ranked. There were like 26 branches of the Army at the time, and you ranked them. And then you put you all in a room and give you an envelope, and they give a speech, and you open it up and have infantry crossed rifles, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to Benning. Here we go. So you get a say, but it's still Order of Merit.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I took the ASVAB, and my recruiter's like, okay, you can do about 90% of anything in the military. Pick a really good job. And I was like, I want to be 11 Bravo. And he's like, oh, you're one of those. Okay, here you go.
And you were great at it. I'm not in my apartment. I'm in my fiance's apartment, or else I would show you. There's a picture of you, Gillum, in my apartment here in New York. And it's the picture of you, me, and that SF guy when we were in the Tengi Valley on that mission. And we came to that checkpoint at the end of the town, and we were in front of that wall, and you have your tongue out and you're holding the saw and stuff. And I just think it's the funniest picture, and I still have it hanging in my apartment. So I see you every day,
Nice. I love that picture. We'll have to throw it up. It says, and there's this cryptic word on the wall behind us. This is World War I that way, and it points.
Yeah.
I just remember that.
That way.
Yeah. That was, I remember the one thing I remember about that mission, it was so cold, and I didn't bring any food because I didn't know how long, but then all of a sudden, I think a local villager brought us some naan bread. It was like the best tasting thing ever.
Dude,
so
I was
like cold and hungry.
Naan. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just wrapping things up, sir. Like, if we could put this all in a quick summary, what would you tell someone your best advice if they're getting out of the military?
If you're getting out of the military, my best advice is first, you need to start setting yourself up a year to 2 ahead of time. And if you're, if there's any, I don't know if your audience has any current soldiers in it or people thinking about getting in, whatever, go to the Ed Center on Monday. Go get your skill. Education is one of the greatest benefits you will get coming out of the military. If you're on a 4-year enlistment, you can either go back to the barracks every day at 4:00 when you get cut and just like joke around, which is fine. Like you'll make great friends and it's awesome. Or you can be the guy going to the Ed Center and like you should get out of 4 years with at least an associate's, because you can take your technical training, turn into college credits, get into local classes, and do it. And then if you're getting out of the military, obviously everyone has a different life situation. It's easy if you're single because you have no responsibilities. You don't need to get a paycheck, put food on the table. But take advantage of that GI Bill. Either you use it, give it to a spouse, give it to a kid, go get your degree, or go to a trade school. And that will make you so much more marketable. And then start thinking now, like, a lot of us think you're going to get out and there's going to be like people waiting at the gate to give all these vets a job. Like, no, you need to start identifying, listing out, here's what I'm looking for in a career. Here's the traits I'm looking for. Here's what I want out of life, personally and professionally. Then you need to take that and go find vets that are working in certain careers. If a vet emails me or shoots me a LinkedIn message, I'm replying. And I know that goes for a lot of other people. Get on LinkedIn, look up careers you think you might want, search for people that were in the Army, that are in that job at that company, reach out to a bunch of them, talk to them, get on their radar, and have them shoot it to you straight. Like, these are the pros, these are the cons, here's what I wish I had known. And then set yourself up so that you're in a good spot going into a career or an educational place that you want to be at. That's the best advice I'd give. The second is, and we talked about this before the podcast, find your tribe. Like, find your people out there. It doesn't have to be former vets. It can be, your communities, your family, your friends from before the military, civilians, like-minded people, but people that are like good influences, people that are going to be positive on you, people that are like you can build up and they can build up too. I spent all yesterday with my tribe. Like, every Saturday morning, I found a former Ranger Reg dude who's an undergrad in college here in New York, who was an E5 in Ranger Reg. And I found a professional here in New York who is a few years older than us, but he is a former state trooper. And the three of us were all like, we all, over beers, we kind of met socially, and over beers, we were like, we all kind of miss that camaraderie, that teamwork from the military, from the police. And we have a standing appointment every Saturday morning. We meet at the gym and then we go to lunch, and we're bettering ourselves physically, but it's also like, we're kind of like this little fire team where we check in on each other for the week. We know when we have big events coming up, we can call, vent, we hang out, we have lunch, all the spouses and significant others have become friends. And find your people in your little support group, because if you're no longer going to be thrown into a team or a squad where like you have automatic accountability, go find that and build that for yourself, because the same things that made you succeed in the military being part of a squad are the same things that are going to help you succeed on the outside. So that's the best advice I'd give.
Nice. Sir, I just want to conclude to the audience too a little bit of what you're saying about the associates thing. There's a little catch that people don't realize. Just from my experience, I wish I would have got that associates while I was in, because when you get to college, they're like, hey, you haven't been to school in like 4 or 5 years, so you have to take these little aptitude tests.
Yeah.
Oh, your aptitude test, because you're rusty, means you have to take these college credit courses that don't even count towards your degree. So essentially, your first semester is doing these refresher courses. So you get a whole semester of your GI Bill essentially wasted. If I would have at least done that in the active duty, I wouldn't have wasted my GI Bill. So just to, tell that to the audience, definitely try to do that, because you'll get a whole semester wasted. And if you do it right, you could get your master's all the way on your GI Bill as an enlisted. So that would be the best advice too.
I would say
100%.
too, technical degrees, don't be afraid it doesn't have to be a 4-year college, man. You can go to a VOTEC.
Absolutely.
Pick whatever you want. Like, I picked drafting and design. I did nothing else. No math, reading, science. All I did for a year and a half was learn how to draft. And it made it so easy. And I was able to use half my GI Bill because it only took a year and a half.
Yeah, you take your leadership experience in the military and take like a technical cert, or you take a trade school, like, you're set, because you're going to be able to, either set up your own shop someday or lead a team. People are going to recognize your responsibility right away. Like, that's a great path. So I agree completely.
Well, here we have it. Hear it from a Green Beret himself and my former platoon leader. It was great to talk with you, sir, but it's time to pop smoke.
It's good seeing you again, man.
Great to see y'all. Thanks for having me on. Y'all are doing a great thing. So really proud of y'all, and keep it up. Keep helping as many people as you can.